Hello, I am Nikki Post from Nikki Post Travel Stuff. This is Art from Gringo Nation. And this is my very first live stream ever, so it's very exciting. I've done live streams with Gringo before in Georgia and Turkey, but this is the first one ever on my channel, so it's very exciting. Just for a little background information, Gringo and I met, well, Art and I met 2 years ago when we were living in the country of Georgia in Tbilisi. So we traveled around together for one entire year around the country. Then we traveled in Turkey together for 3 months. So I saw and I helped Gringo make videos that whole time, that whole like year and a half. And I realized that's really fun. I want to do that too. So he's really my inspiration for starting my YouTube channel. I've been traveling for several years, like 17, 18 years. I also have experience with video. I had just never thought about putting them together in the same world, but here we are, 1 year strong. So after Gringo and I traveled together for just over a year and a half in Georgia and Turkey, we went our separate ways, traveling in different places, and now we both find ourselves back in South America. He's from Brazil originally, and I've been living in Argentina the last several months. And when he told me he was going to Peru for a wedding, I was like, damn, let's have a reunion. Let's go to Machu Picchu. So that's what we did. We, about 2-3 months ago, maybe no less, 2 months ago, we started planning and looking into doing different trips. Ultimately, we decided on doing the Salkantay trek to Machu Picchu, and that finally became a reality. And that's what we just finished yesterday. Today's Sunday, Friday. We just came back on Friday. So if you are thinking of doing, well, really any trek, but especially specifically the Salkantay trek, then we want to help provide as much information as possible if you're interested. Yeah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say it's such a pleasure being on your first live stream.
Yeah.
You've been on so many of mine and helped me so much that I hope that I can share some value here as well. And I just want to say that I'm a huge fan of Nikki's channel. She's really killing it with the videos. She puts so much time and effort into the videos, and they look amazing.
Thanks.
And it's no surprise that she's growing so fast as well. Boom, the dynamic duo twice in one night.
Rob.
Christmas has come early.
How sweet.
Well,
Thank you, Rob.
Right
Thanks
back
for
at you,
attending.
Rob. We got you twice in 2 live streams, so maybe the Christmas is for us.
Yeah. So if anyone has questions, then just save them till the end and we'll answer as many questions as possible once we finish. So let's
kick it off.
Yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, we want to talk about the variety of trails and agencies, because when you haven't been yet, it does feel kind of overwhelming. You don't really know what you're doing. You don't really know like which agency, if you have to use an agency, what kind of treks. It's really confusing. So
yeah, and I must say, I want to thank Nikki because she really took that step to research all of the companies, and she found the one that she thought was best for us. So I just kind of went along with it.
Yeah. So first of all, there's several different trails and different hikes and treks that you can do. Of course, the main one is the Inca Trail, but it's the most popular one. So you do have to make reservations for the Inca Trail because you need permits and things about 4 to 5 months in advance.
To be safe, probably about 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Like you really have to plan ahead. Obviously, we didn't have that kind of time, so we couldn't do the Inca Trail even if we wanted to, because we just didn't think about it 6 months ago. So then there were a few other treks available. One is the Lares trek. There's another one called like Cochibamba, I think. There's the Salkantay, which we did. So there's like basically 2-day treks, 3-day treks, 4-day treks. We did a 5-day, 4-night trek.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think the Salkantay trek is probably the second most popular trek that you can do up to Machu Picchu. A lot of people actually prefer the Salkantay trek because they say that the nature is much more beautiful. Even though the Inca one is very popular, the Incans actually walked through the Salkantay Trek as well.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't like a consolation prize at all. It was quite an incredible experience.
Yeah, I didn't feel disappointed at all.
Yeah, in any way.
Yeah. So if you're thinking of doing it, just think how many days and how many nights you want to do it. And if you don't want to do a trek, you can also just take the train or the bus up to Machu Picchu. Like you don't have to do a trek.
Yeah, but I think one thing we do want to say is that there's so many different ways of doing it, even if you're with a travel agency. So some travel agencies will just kind of like zip you through the Salkantay Trek on vans, which means that when you arrive at your campsite, you don't really have to worry about a lot of stuff. You can kind of just hang out and have beers and things because you're not going to be walking the next day. So if you wake up kind of hungover, you just kind of jump in a van and go to your next spot.
Yeah.
Which, wasn't really for us because we did want to walk the trek.
Yeah, we wanted to feel like we earned it, like we deserved to arrive in Machu Picchu.
Exactly, which also meant that we were going to bed at 7 p.m. We weren't really drinking too much, maybe having one beer before bed, and that's it. And I guess another way of doing it is also something we might do next time, which we can talk about a little later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later, but you don't have to actually have a tour guide. And that was kind of one big fallacy that we assumed. We thought you could only do it with a tour company. And so that's why we were researching companies and we hadn't even considered doing it on our own.
Yeah, because it's a scary thought. You're going to be walking through the jungle and through the mountains for 5 days. The first thing you think is like, you're definitely going to need a tour guide. And I guess it's not exactly that. Like, it's not that necessary. So
yeah, it's definitely possible to do it on your own.
We'll talk about that more a little later.
Yeah.
First, we're going to get to equipment and clothing.
Yes. So, of course, it's very important because you can only bring so much. The company gives you a duffel bag and you can fill the duffel bag up until, I believe, 7 kilos. And then you carry a backpack on your back for the day. So things you'll need during the day, like water, jacket, sunscreen, things like that. In the duffel bag, you would put things like toothbrush and things you need only at night.
Yeah, and it's with the weather here in Peru and in the mountains and stuff, it's kind of hard to know what you're going to need during the day because the weather changes so much. So you really have to pack for like all 4 seasons for one day, which
changes a lot.
And makes your backpack quite full and heavy sometimes. But I mean, the basic stuff you need, a rain jacket, that's like...
Yeah, you have to. Like it will definitely rain, even in the dry season. Like now it rained every single day, I think, of our trek.
And it gets pretty cold, so you definitely want to have like a bulkier jacket. And then you're just going to need like lots of layers. So I was wearing a lot of like long sleeve shirts and really thin sweaters with jackets on top. You need beanies and things like that.
Yeah, you need a beanie for when it's cold, and you need a sun hat with a bill. You need a scarf because in the mornings and evenings it's cold. You definitely need gloves because it gets really cold again in the mornings and evenings. There were some mornings I started hiking with 4 layers. So like a t-shirt, a long sleeve thermal layer, a sweater, and like a puffy jacket, and sometimes a 5th, my rain jacket. And I think almost every day I hiked with 2 pant layers, like a yoga pant layer, and then either like hiking pants over that or another pair of yoga pants over that.
Yeah, I was definitely also wearing like sort of a legging and then a pair of sweatpants on top. That was kind of enough for me. I don't think you need more than that on the bottom part. And well, I did the Salkantay Trek in tennis shoes.
I wasn't going to go there yet. I was going to go socks and then shoes, like slowly going down.
As for socks, I mean, it'd be nice to get a good pair of hiking socks.
Yeah, I had 2 pairs of hiking socks, like specific socks to hiking, and 1 pair I used on the 1st and 3rd day. And then the 2nd day I used my other one. And then on the 4th day, it wasn't so difficult. I just wore like a regular athletic sock.
Yeah. And now we can
talk about shoes.
Yeah, so I did it in tennis shoes, and my tennis shoes were quite old. They don't have so much traction anymore. A lot of people told me, "You're crazy, don't do it, get hiking boots." Then I asked the guide what he thought, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay, no problem."
Yeah.
Turns out he was kind of wrong because
I had a lot of things.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble like going down, even though I had hiking sticks. It was really slippery at some points. I would not recommend doing the Salkantay Trek in tennis shoes.
Yeah, the guide came over to our house 2 days before we started for an orientation, and Art even showed them like, okay, these are my shoes. This is the traction. Like, are they okay? And he was like, Oh yeah, totally. No problem. It's fine. You can do it. No big deal. And then on the trek, when he was really struggling, the guide was like, yeah, it's because your shoes are bad.
Yeah.
There's no traction.
I
We were
asked you
like,
about him.
"What?" We literally asked you that.
But what I will say is like I rented walking sticks from the company. They were $25.
No, 15. 20. We had to pay for our sleeping bags. You can bring your own or pay $25 a sleeping bag. And then you can also rent hiking sticks, and they were $15 each.
Yeah, and as an unexperienced hiker, that was just a lifesaver, especially going down. I can't even imagine how it would have been doing the trek without walking sticks.
Yeah, I'm even an experienced hiker, and I've hiked a lot, and I was glad to have them just because sometimes it was steep going up and especially going down. And one day my knees started hurting, so it was nice to have them. So I would also definitely recommend hiking sticks.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then are we talking about how the tents were up and ready, or are we doing that later?
Yeah, let's talk about the tents.
Yeah, so one positive aspect of our agency is that we would just walk all day, and once we reach the campsite, there'd just be a tent ready to go with what do you call
A tarp.
a tarp and a sleeping bag. So it's basically arrive at the campsite and you can just rest right away.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
is
very
one
helpful.
benefit of using the company, is because it was the same thing with the tents, but also food. Like we never had to worry about food. We just arrived and there was like a happy hour ready and then the dinner. And sometimes our chef would wake us up in the morning at like 5 a.m. with a cup of hot tea.
Yeah, just hello, senorita. Here's your
Yeah.
cup of hot tea at 5:30 in the morning. So there were definitely a lot of benefits to having done it with a travel agency. And I must say the food was actually spectacular, and
Yeah.
a wide variety of food. Every meal it would change, and it was always very, very good.
Yeah, the food was super good.
So we can talk a little more about that later.
But yeah, so now we'll kind of go into the basic logistics of what each day was like and what happened on each day and what kind of things we saw. So essentially, well, I guess before the trek even started, we had an orientation at our house. Our tour guide came to our house, or like our Airbnb, to discuss just to prepare us what the trek was going to be like. He gave us our duffel bags to pack. He gave us like a paper with information.
He showed us a map of how high we were going to go, how long it would take between campsites and things like that.
Yeah, he answered all of our questions. We showed him like different clothes and shoes and different things to ask him his opinion. And so so that was kind of our orientation. And we actually had hoped that we would have a bigger tour group. We thought we would have an orientation with 8-10 people who are all going together. It turned out it was just the two of us.
Which at first we were kind of excited about, because we're like, oh, we don't need to wait it for anyone, or who knows, like maybe we don't like someone in the group or something. So at first we thought that was pretty cool. Later, I think we kind of wanted to meet some other people, and mingle a little, and maybe divide the attention of the guide with other people,
which we'll talk about a little bit later.
We'll talk about. I guess before day one, that was kind of it, right?
Yeah, that was kind of it, just like a mini orientation. And we needed to pay the remaining balance because we had paid with a credit card, like when we first signed up, 40%, and then we still owed the 60%. So we had to pay that in cash. It had to be US dollars or soles. And so we thought we would pay that day when our guide came, but he didn't want to take care of the money. So he asked us just to pay on our day one. So we can talk about day one. So it started super early. We had our alarm set for 4:15 in the morning. We got ready. And then our guide and a driver came and picked us up at our Airbnb at 4:45. Then
they took us to the travel agency.
Yeah, then they took us to the travel agency,
where we paid for the trip, the remaining balance of the trip, which was kind of weird, like just pulling out all these dollars at 5 a.m. in the middle of Peru.
Yeah, it was weird. They gave us water and t-shirts.
And then we went back in the van and we popped a little Dramamine, didn't we?
Yeah, because the roads to get to Moyepata are really windy. So yeah, we had some Dramamine.
And then I guess we were in the van for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, probably almost 2 hours. And then we had to stop it just before the town of Moyepata because we had to register at like a little hut. And like we had to get permits, I guess, to enter. Our guide did all that. So that's another benefit of having a company, is the guide takes care of all the logistics. We didn't have to worry about it. So we did that. And then after doing that, we went into the town of Moyapata and had breakfast. And that breakfast was not included. So that was something separate.
And a lot of people actually, when they go by themselves, they start hiking in the town of Moyapata, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we saw a lot of people starting their hike there, but we were just having breakfast, and then we got back in the van and we went.
And then we drove to the next town, which I believe is called Suraypampa. And that was only like, it wasn't far, like 25, 30 minutes away.
Yeah. And that's where we started our hike to Umantay Lake.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a V almost if you're looking at a map. You start in this parking lot and then you go up to the left to Humantay Lake. So you do that first. And I personally didn't think that it was very difficult. It was steep, but like I didn't have any problems with altitude. I didn't have I'm experienced hiking, so I really didn't have an issue, but Art had been struggling for a while with altitude sickness.
Yeah, I'd been struggling for a while with altitude sickness. I had all the symptoms. I had nausea, I had diarrhea, I had a headache, shortness of breath. And it was my first day hiking, and it's quite a difficult hike for an unexperienced hiker, I think. So yeah, I was struggling, but I made it up.
Yeah.
I think going down was a little harder later, but it was definitely worth it. Umantay Lake is beautiful.
Yeah. It is beautiful. It took us like maybe almost 2 hours to reach Umantay Lake. And when you first get there, it's packed. Like there's so many people because some people come just to go to Umantay Lake. So, I mean, the whole way up, it's like tons of people on horses, people walking, a lot of people. But once we got to the lake, you can keep hiking up above to the left a little bit. And that's where the amazing views were, because if you're surface level with the lake, you really can't see how blue it is. And then if you go up above, it is like incredibly blue, like the color of this label right here.
Yeah, and I mean, and the views all around are just incredible. Like you're standing right in front of this snowy mountain coupled with this like blue lake. So I've really never seen anything like it. And
the juxtaposition between lake and mountain was really amazing.
So if for some reason Umantay Lake is not on your, if you're looking to do
maybe like Inca Trail because it goes the other way.
Yeah, try to get Umantay Lake on your travel plan, because it really is worth it.
Yeah, it's totally beautiful.
And then coming down was a little difficult for me because of my shoes. I didn't have much traction, but I was still getting a hang of the walking sticks as well. So day one was a little more difficult.
Yeah. So once we went up to the lake, looked around, came back down, then we kind of came almost back to where the car had dropped us off. And then we went the other way around the mountain and had lunch there. So our first lunch was good. It was these homemade little tortilla chips with palta, avocado, which was so good.
Yeah, and soup.
Lemonade, broccoli, a bunch of vegetables.
Yeah, and there was a Peruvian wedding happening not very far from us. So there was all these like flute sounds in the distance, and then the bride came in on a horse.
Yeah, and then walked up the hill to the wedding.
It was really a singular experience, and I was glad that all happened during our lunch.
Yeah.
And then, after lunch, I popped a little paracetamol.
Yeah, which was a habit on the trip.
It sure was.
Happened every day.
To make sure I could get through each portion of the trip. I was taking a lot of paracetamol. And then we continued on, right?
Yeah, and then we continued. And I think we walked about 2 or 3 hours more to get to the campsite. And right as we were leaving lunch, because it was really sunny up at the lake and everything down to lunch, as soon as we started leaving lunch, it started raining. So it did get a bit cold, and it was kind of cold and rainy almost all the way to the campsite.
Yeah, and the campsite was the most primitive one.
Yeah, but it was also more what I had anticipated. Like, I think we imagined that we were going to be like trekking and camping, and we were going to be roughing it, and it was going to be primitive the whole way, like sleeping in tents in the middle of the forest. It really wasn't like that, but the first night was the most like that.
Yeah, it was exactly what I expected as well. And I mean, it was kind of hard, not having a proper toilet, and it was extremely cold.
So cold.
Having to brush your teeth in like complete darkness and things like that. But once you look up at the sky and you're in the middle of this like snowy valley and the stars are shining, it was an incredible, beautiful night. Really.
Yeah, really beautiful. And our chef was, of course, there before us. Oh, Calvin. Oh, hi, Calvin. Yeah, Calvin. I know Calvin from my channel. Hi, so nice to see you here.
What's an elbow cuff?
An elbow cuff?
Oh, like COVID?
Calvin also lives in New Zealand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so oh yeah, so that first night was freezing. It was so cold. We like tried to get as close as possible, but our sleeping bags had like tiny little zips, so we couldn't even like get close.
Individual sleeping bags, so you can't even like really hug each other. Right?
Yeah, you can't get like warmth from each other.
Yeah.
So we slept really, really poorly, and we couldn't wait until it was morning to get up again.
And one thing I do want to say is that I was, because I had had diarrhea earlier, I had taken an anti-diarrhea pill, which just dried out my body, which means I couldn't go to the bathroom for a few days.
Yeah,
but that night I'm like, I'm going to give it a go. And basically what they had was a little hut made of rocks and a hole in the middle for you to try to poo in complete darkness at night. Well, I went and I tried to get into the hut, and one of my legs kind of almost fell into the poo hole, and I almost fell into the poo hole.
Close call.
And I hit my fist on the rocks, and the hut, or part of the hut, kind of came down. And I just thanked all the gods that I didn't fall into that poo hole, because it would have made my night and remainder of the trip much worse.
I also thank the gods, because I would not want him in the tent after falling in the shithole.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so that was lucky that you didn't. But our chef, they had like this tent set up, so we were able to go in there, and we had dinner in there. And at the campsite, there was like our tents from our company, and then there was also several other people, individuals, who were just doing it on their own and carried their own tent and sleeping bag and everything, and they set up there as well. So we were around other people at that campsite, but we were the only ones that had food cooked for us.
Yeah. And I guess we were just really looking forward to getting to bed early and waking up as early as possible and just getting out of there and start walking again, because it was so freaking cold that we just needed to continue on to day 2.
Yeah. And so at 5:30 in the morning, day 2 began when we heard Señora, Señor, buenos días. And we just unzipped our tent, and Mario had our cocoa leaf tea ready for us. So hot. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. Just being in your tent and starting off the day with a little cocoa tea.
Yeah. So we got up and had breakfast, brushed our teeth, went to the bathroom, normal stuff, and then had to pack our bags.
Normal stuff, even though you're kind of really roughing it.
Well,
no bathroom, no anything.
Yeah. Washing your face with wet wipes.
Yeah. And then cleaning your toothbrush in the river, things like that.
Yeah. So normal.
But
yeah, so day 2 is supposedly the most difficult day on the Salkantay Pass. And the reason that is because you go uphill for 5 hours up to the highest point. So Salkantay Mountain, I think, is like 6,200 meters or something, but we only hiked to the pass because everything above it is like all snowy and there's no way you could hike up to the top. But we hiked up to the pass, which is about 4,200 meters. So you're going up for 5 hours, and then you go down for 7 hours, and the down is pretty steep as well. So this is why like it's known as the most difficult day. I personally didn't think it was difficult. Like it just felt normal, like some ups, some downs, but I'm used to hiking.
I was really dreading day 2
after
day 1 because the downhill portion of day 1 was so difficult. And I knew that day 2 involved not only a lot of walking, but a lot of downhill portions as well. Turned out that the uphill portion was quite all right. The weather was nice, and we reached Salkantay Pass, which I just saw is 4,600 meters.
Okay.
And then once we got to the top, we had some more cocoa tea.
Yeah, we had more tea, and then we had like a little ceremony. So along the path, you'll see a lot of like those stacks of rocks. So our guide explained to us that you have to take a rock from the bottom and then carry it with you to the top. And then once you make it to the top, then you have like a little ceremony, and we stacked our rocks and the tea leaves. We put tea leaves in there that had certain meanings. There were 3 meanings, but to be honest, like I didn't know what our guide was saying most of the time, so I don't know what the meaning is.
Yeah, but most importantly, you see a lot of people stacking rocks just anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for you to always stack it at your highest point. Like you bring it from the bottom up to your highest point on the hike, and then
Yeah.
you do the ceremony. And I think that's when the weather really started to change because we were like right in front of Salkantay Mountain, which was completely snowy.
Yeah.
And that's when it started getting a little cold.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people at the pass, like even though drones aren't allowed, like trying to get their drones up and having beers or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just kind of wanted to get out of there fast to be the first ones out, so we weren't like hiking with a lot of people.
Right. And that's another thing too, is a lot of people brought drones and kept using drones like at Humantai Lake and at Salkantay Pass. And so then whenever people had drones, like the Peruvian guides that were around would be like, no se permite, no se permite. So don't bring a drone on the hike.
Definitely don't bring a drone because you're going to be carrying it for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we started going down. It was really beautiful landscape.
The terrain was constantly changing. Like every hour it was something different. Like we started going down and it was really rocky. And then once it got a little flatter, it was like a whole nother planet. Like it was so eerie, just big rocks everywhere, but the ground was mostly flat, but so much fog. So you're just walking through this like foggy rock garden.
Yeah, it really felt like Mars sometimes.
Yeah, it was wild.
And that's one of the things I liked the most about the whole trip is that the terrain was always changing. You never got bored of the scenery or anything.
Yeah.
And the weather was always changing. So sometimes you were cold, sometimes you were hot. But I think that's what made it kind of nice.
Yeah. And then by the time we got to our lunch spot, it was like pouring rain. So we were really happy to be able to go into like a little structure. Another amazing lunch, and he had his first poo after 3 days.
After 3 days, I defecated for the first time. I paid $1 sol, which is like
worth it.
$7.
Yeah.
And I had it for some reason or other along the Salkantay trek. The toilets never have lids on them.
Yeah, it's just a basin.
It's just a basin, but oh boy, was I happy with that basin. And I think that's just made me lighter for the remainder of the trip. I popped another paracetamol and off we went.
Off we went.
Yeah.
But after lunch, it really stopped raining. Like it wasn't like as we continued, it just got drier and warmer. And then soon we were like in. Felicidades.
Yeah, muchas gracias, amigo.
Much deserved.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
It was rough.
So yeah, like as we went on, it was getting warmer, it was getting drier. We were taking off layers, like changing our beanies for sun hats, taking off our jackets, putting on sunscreen. And after it went through that like Mars environment, it ended up like rainforest environment. Like it smelled like fresh flowers and you could hear water and you could hear the river and it was hot.
And all sorts of like flora and fauna.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Like you were walking through a jungle.
Yeah, and by then I had really gotten the hang of my walking stick, so I was just kind of like really.
Yeah, he sped ahead.
Really going for it. I sped ahead. Just kind of training for whatever was to come.
Yeah. So then we finally arrived in our like little town where we were going to sleep for night 2. And luckily this night of sleep was so much warmer. But I think we were a bit surprised to find how much infrastructure was available because we thought it was going to be another night of camping like it was the night before. But it was actually like a kind of very large campground area. Like there were a lot of camps around, a lot of buildings, huts that you could stay in if you were doing an individual trip.
Is that where you showered the first time?
Yeah, that was where I showered.
Yeah.
So at the place we stayed at, we could shower for 10 soles each. So 10 soles is like $2.50, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I think even though it wasn't exactly like what we expected in terms of roughing it, we were really happy that it looked like a warmer spot and we were able to shower for 10 soles.
Yeah, that was so nice.
And, just kind of kick back, take your shoes off and put Band-Aids on the shoes and having a bathroom not a bathroom, but a sink to brush your teeth in
having
and
a
things
sink,
like that.
A toilet. And our camping site was like on the terrace of this house. It was like on a balcony. So we just had our tent set up on this balcony.
On a wooden balcony.
And a wooden balcony. But it was nice. Like the view of the mountains and the canyon and everything was really beautiful in front of us. So.
And it was nice because the first night we were like sleeping on a slant because it was
Right.
grass, and it was nice having a flat wooden surface to sleep on.
Yeah, we slept so much better the second night. And then, of course, Mario prepared our meals and we had dinner and went to bed at like 8 o'clock. And then we woke up on day three.
Yeah, where we just did a lot of hiking along the river, which we actually don't remember the name of the river.
Yeah, I don't remember, but we just kind of followed a river and like walked along kind of these paths,
Ridges,
like narrow paths and ridges, like
Yeah.
along cliffs. And it was beautiful, but this was definitely my least favorite day. And I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to our tour guide section.
Yeah, but we passed through like some waterfalls.
Yeah.
One really beautiful one in particular that was like
Yeah, it
three
was like-
waterfalls in a row.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was great for like taking pictures and a lot of good footage like along the river.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was definitely our most awkward day, and we'll get to
Yeah.
that in a bit.
But I think it was like 8 hours, maybe 7 or 8 hours walking.
Yeah, it was a lot of walking.
Yeah, a lot of walking. And then we arrived to the lunch site. We arrived to the lunch site. And then we had lunch there, and there was like a ton of other people having, like other groups having lunch. And then we had a decision. We could either walk another 3 hours to the campsite or just take a car and drive there, which is like 40 minutes. And I think it was like 30 soles or something.
Yeah, and on average, we were walking about 30,000 steps a day. And on day 3, we had already walked almost 30,000 steps.
Right.
So we were like really, really tired. My hands were full of blisters, my feet as well. So we just said,
Yeah.
let's take the transport.
Yeah. Also, because it was such an awkward day, we just wanted to sort of get over it. And
wanted-
we didn't want to like deal with our guide for that time anymore.
Yeah, so then what was the name of the town that we went to?
Santa Teresa.
Santa Teresa, which is where they have the thermal baths.
Yeah.
And I guess, I've been to thermal baths in many places, most notably the one in Budapest, which just had way too many people because, of course, it's very, very touristy. So I didn't really know what to expect from the Santa Teresa thermal baths, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So, well, like I'm going to backtrack just a little. Like we arrived at the campsite and it was more similar to the campsite of the night before, where we slept again on the second floor terrace balcony thing, set our tent up there. There were normal bathrooms, running water, things like that. So it was not primitive, no showers, but it was also the warmest night of sleep.
Yeah. I don't remember. Oh, okay. I remember now.
Yeah, with all the dogs.
With all the dogs.
And the French people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So yeah, once we dropped off our stuff and set up our tent, then we like walked to the center of Santa Teresa, and the three of us two plus our guide, and got like a moto taxi and drove. It's like 15, 20 minutes to the thermal baths.
Would be faster in a regular car, but
Yeah.
a moto taxi is quite an interesting experience.
Yeah. And then right outside, they had these little shops, and we saw all these other people getting beer, and we're like, yeah, that looks fun. Like, let's get a beer and go to the thermal baths. So we buy these big beers, and then as soon as we go in, yeah, they're like, yeah, we deserve this, And then as soon as we go in, they're like, you can't drink those beers here. Like, you have to stand like way back. So basically, you just sit like by yourself drinking a beer.
Yeah, while
not
you
even
have
close.
to watch like
Yeah.
all these people just having fun in the thermal baths. And we didn't have like that much time because we arrived a little late. So
Yeah.
we probably had like an hour and a half to enjoy the thermal baths. And here we were stuck with these big beers, and we didn't want to like throw them away. We wanted
Yeah.
to drink them.
So we kind of just like asked this one guy, and we're like, wait, can we just put them here? So we had our beers by our stuff, and then we went in the thermal baths, and you have to take a shower first, like this hot thermal bath shower. But then they have three pools, three or four pools. And it's like warm, warmer, hot.
Yeah. And we knew we wanted to go to the hot one.
Yeah. But we went in all of them.
Yeah. And you see all the tourists in the really hot one.
Yeah.
Because I guess all the
it's the
tourists must
nicest.
be kind of freezing or something, and they just want to enjoy the really hot one.
And it was like a nightclub in there.
Yeah, it was really party vibe, you know, a lot
Yeah.
of people mingling, getting to know each other. Of course, a lot of these people already knew each other from doing
Their
their
treks.
treks
Yeah.
and hanging out and having beers. We didn't really know anyone, so we just hung out with each other.
Yeah, but this one guy had music and a speaker, and he was like trying to get everyone to dance. And
Yeah,
it was-
Peruvian guy.
Peruvian guy, yeah.
Probably the only Peruvian guy in that pool.
Yeah, maybe. All the Peruvians were actually in the cold one.
The cold ones,
Yeah.
which was interesting.
Yeah.
But it was just all in all just a really great site. They also had these like hot natural showers that you can sit in, so you get like a massage on your back.
Yeah.
It was pretty great, and
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't
Yeah, it
even
was
really
worth it.
need that much time there. We just kind of enjoyed it for an hour,
Yeah.
and like
And it was only 10 soles, so like we couldn't shower, but it was nice to just get wet and feel a little bit cleaner.
yeah. So by the time our skin started getting soggy, we were about ready to go.
Yeah.
And
So
rest.
yeah, so we took a moto taxi back to the center of the town, and then when we got back to our little campsite, Mario had like prepared all the food. We had dinner, and then pretty much just like another early 8 p.m. night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was on to day 4.
Yeah, but that was the best night of sleep we had camping.
Yeah.
Because it really was warm. Like you actually got hot in the night and we're taking off layers and unzipping the sleeping bag. So
yeah, and basically just like having your sleeping bag up to here and being able to have your arms outside was already like a great advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So that was nice. So then we woke up at 4 a.m. Day 4, we woke up not at 4 a.m., but at like 6:30 a.m. for day 4.
We also had some coca tea delivered to our tent, which was nice.
Yeah. And this morning was much slower going. The other ones were kind of like, okay, wake up at 6, breakfast at 6:30. We're leaving at 7. But this one was like very relaxed.
Yeah, we had more time to get everything ready and, cure our blisters. And things.
And the main reason that it was like more of a relaxed morning was because the next path that we had to take was basically a construction site. Like they're doing so much construction there, and there's all these the trucks and tractors and all this stuff. And the whole road is super, super dusty. So our guide was like, I think we should probably just take a taxi from here and like pass this point and then walk from there. And also like, the pass, in order to take a taxi, it only opens at a certain time, and I think it opened at like 9 a.m. So it was just like really relaxed. We got in the car at like 8:30. We drove a little, and then we had to stop a few times in the car and like wait for trucks to go by.
And taking transport shaved like 2 to 3 hours off of that day.
Yeah.
And it would have been a really long day, and it was already day 4, and we were super tired. So we were very happy to have some hours shaved off our trek experience.
Yeah. So then the taxi dropped us off at a place called Hydroelectric, and it's where the train tracks begin. So basically the rest of this day, we walked along train tracks that went from Hydroelectric to Aguas Calientes.
Yeah, and we gave our duffel bags to some guy. The guy put our duffel bags on a train, and then we would receive those duffel bags in Aguas Calientes hours later.
Yeah, because for the first 2 days, we had both a cook and a porter. And so they took care of carrying our duffel bags and everything on the horses. But then by day 3, the horses can't go further. So our porter Daniel, our porter Daniel took took the horses back. And so then Mario, our chef, was in charge of our duffel bags. And he took them in a car. But by the last day, Mario also left to go back to Cusco. So we had our duffel bags. We had to take them in the taxi with us. And then once we got to Hydroelectric, we put our duffel bags on the train. Or actually, we gave them to this other porter guy who was in charge of putting them on the train when the train came. Because the train didn't come till 2 o'clock, and we were there at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So Lana says, please stay together. I enjoy watching your shared trips. Oh, that's so sweet.
So nice, Lana. We also enjoy doing our trips together.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes we're just going in opposite directions.
Yeah. Lana, did you know us from the Georgia and Turkey videos from last year?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
If you know Nikki's channel better, or if you know my channel better.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. Yeah, so anyways, once we gave our duffel bags away, we pretty much just started walking along the train tracks. And then it was like 4 hours probably walking along the train tracks. And we started to see some of the same people. Like we saw this French family that we had seen the night before. And then also from there's a lot of people who do 1-day trips from hydroelectric. They walk to Aguascalientes and then take the bus to Machu Picchu all in 1 day. So we saw a lot of those people as well.
Lana says, I enjoyed your Georgia trips.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, we certainly did a lot of traveling together in Georgia.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, Lana.
Yeah.
And I think day 4 was actually the easiest day walking wise because it was pretty much completely flat the whole time.
Yeah, just along train tracks.
And we also saw a lot of other groups that maybe that was their only walking portion because they were like older people.
Yeah, and they were like really struggling.
They were struggling on that like flat terrain, so for sure they wouldn't be able to do like some of the other things we did. And then we were just kind of looking forward to getting to Aguascalientes because it would be our first hotel night, first bed night in a long while.
Yeah, and that day was also super hot. Like it was the hottest day walking. We were really hot. So after 4 hours walking along the train tracks, we arrived at Aguascalientes, or Machu Picchu town. Its name has recently changed.
Yeah, Machu Picchu Pueblo.
Machu Picchu Pueblo.
And it was really funny because as we were walking into town, we were just looking at all these like 5-star hotels and we're wondering, is this the one our travel agency booked? But I think deep down we knew.
We knew it wasn't. But where we stayed, it was fine.
It was fine.
It was like outside of the main center. It was a 4-star. It wasn't, whatever.
4-star in Peru.
Yeah, we didn't need anything that fancy. Like the shower was the best shower I've had probably in the last 5 months that I've been in South America.
I think a lot of factors contributed to that.
Well, that's maybe true, but it was hot. There was a lot of pressure. The hot water never went away. It was that like big circle that just comes straight down on you. So that was nice.
Yeah, and the town itself, it was, there was more things going on than I expected, and it was certainly extremely touristy. There were a lot of like tourist traps. We actually ended up in one of them where we got like nachos, and they just gave us like
nachos.
We definitely overpaid for nachos and beer, but we didn't care because we were happy to be kind of back into semi-civilization.
But if you're from South America, can you please tell me why you think nachos are chips? Like nachos have cheese. Why don't you put cheese on your nachos? Yeah. So when we ordered nachos, because we were like, we're really craving nachos. Like we wanted melted cheese, but really nachos was just tortilla chips with
avocado and like a tiny
Parmesan
amount of shaved
cheese.
Parmesan cheese.
Parmesan cheese. Come on.
Yeah.
Mexicans would be ashamed.
And it's just like you just see a lot of tourists there because there are people that probably only go to Aguascalientes to go to Machu Picchu the next day. So that's where you're kind of reacquainted with the whole touristy vibe.
Yeah, and it was super touristy because they just had like all kinds of things that like tourists love. Like they had tons of places with craft beer. They had tons of Mexican restaurants. They had caipirinhas, just sort of like typical things, like popular things
that don't necessarily mix together.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a beer and some nachos, and then our tour guide actually had to go. He didn't stay in our hotel. He stayed in his own hostel, and then he went to the train to pick up our duffel bags, brought them back. We met him at our hotel to get our duffel bags, and then went to dinner.
Yeah, dinner that was included in our travel package.
So Cheva Khan says, excelente aventura, chicos. Choquequirao next. So Choquequirao, that's the one that's 15 days, I think. Our guide was telling us about that.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that one.
I could do that one. I think I could do that one, but like not with the same guide.
right, which we will get to.
Yeah. So then, that last night we had dinner. That was our last like official meal with our tour guide. And we were all pretty over it, I think. Like he didn't want to hang out with us. Like we didn't want to hang out with him. We just like got through it.
Yeah, he wasn't really feeling the vibe because we've had a bit of a I don't know what you'd call it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll explain.
But I think he wasn't interested in like entertaining us anymore, and we weren't interested in
Yeah.
having his company. So it was really an awkward dinner, and I was just
Yeah.
hoping it would fly by, which it didn't fly by because they were just forgetting our food all the
Yeah,
time.
they forgot our tour guide's dinner, so we were waiting for like 5 minutes for his food to arrive. It never arrived.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Okay, you guys eat." And so we're like, "Okay, fine, I guess. Like,
Mhm.
your food's not here." And then his food came out like after we finished already because they had forgot his food.
Yeah, and I ordered a big glass of wine to see if it would help me get through the dinner. But ultimately, it was over, and we were glad it was over
Yeah, we were glad.
because we could also go back to the hotel and sleep on a
Yeah.
bed for the first time in a while.
Sleep on beds, and also our hotel had Netflix, so we just like totally relaxed and like watched Netflix and fell asleep early and slept in a really nice bed. And
Yeah, it was a long time coming.
long time coming. So then, of course, the big conclusion of the trek, we arrived to Machu Picchu. Well, I guess we woke up in the morning at like 5.
5:30, and then we had breakfast at 6.
Yeah, we had breakfast at the hotel.
And then at 6:30, our guide met us at the hotel and took us to the bus station.
Yeah, so which is just in the center of town. You'll see like a really long line of people right by the train tracks. So we took the bus, we got up to Machu Picchu, got in our entrance. Of course, a really long line. Like if you watch any YouTube video, they'll tell you like go early, wait in line at 4:30, be the first people like to enter the gate so you can get photos without thousands of people. Well, we didn't do that. Our entrance time was between 7 and 8 a.m. So there were thousands of people when we got to Machu Picchu.
Yeah, although honestly, I don't know if you can really avoid people when going
Yeah.
to Machu Picchu. It's probably something you should just accept as a reality and just deal with it because
Yeah.
there's going to be people there, even if you have like half an hour to yourself.
Right.
It's not enough to see the whole site, and eventually you're just going to be like
Yeah.
completely surrounded with people.
Yeah. And so you can only go through Machu Picchu one way. It's not like you can wander around. It's kind of like there's this path that you follow that weaves through. So you have to follow this path. There's tons of security guards. So if you stop to take photos, they kind of get mad at you and they're like, don't block the path, keep going.
Yeah, and then you get mad at people that are blocking the paths, and then all of a sudden you realize you're the one blocking paths because everyone wants to get their photos and whatnot. So I mean, is it a place that people should visit in their lifetime? I think yes, for sure.
Yeah, just expect that it's a super touristy place.
Yeah, it's also a place that really might get on your nerves.
Yeah.
And you kind of just want it to be over.
Yeah, it's like going to Venice. You know, it's like you have to see it, but there's so many tourists.
Yeah, and then you realize you're one of them.
Yeah, exactly. right.
But there's a lot of like open areas where you can kind of relax a bit and be a little more alone.
Yeah.
And it's easy enough to get your nice photographs and things like that. And I mean, the sheer intelligence of the Incan people to create something like that, and all of the views around were just like.
Yeah, I mean, it is stunning because when you kind of take yourself out of that tourist mode and think in a different mindset, you're like, wow, there's this really old city, like 600 years old. And then you're surrounded by these incredible mountains and there's fog and there's clouds and it does feel pretty magical.
Yeah, and one thing is I'm not sure if they had like audio guides because we didn't really check. So if they don't have audio, I do love audio guides, but I don't know if they have them. And although I wouldn't suggest our guide, I think it would be nice to have someone kind of explaining to you what's going on.
Yeah, you can get a Machu Picchu guide at the gates of Machu Picchu. You can get a Machu Picchu guide at the bus stop. Like there's constantly people coming up to you asking if you want a Machu Picchu guide. So
just make sure they speak your language well.
Yeah. So if you're going on your own without like a tour guide, get a guide there that speaks the language that you need.
Yeah. Ours didn't. And then I guess we went through Machu Picchu in about 3 hours.
Yeah, it took about 3 hours. It was cold in the morning and then hot by the end. So once we finished, we took the bus back to Aguascalientes. Our tour guide was like, oh, should we have lunch together? And we were like, So what time will we meet you at the train later?
Yeah, because we didn't want to. We were done by
We
that
were
point.
done.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
fun fact, Michael Jackson tried to shut down
Oh, yeah.
Machu Picchu so he could just enjoy it for a day. And imagine all the people that were in that town that, you know.
Yeah, they're taking the trip of their lifetime. They finally come to Machu Picchu and then they can't go because it's closed for Michael Jackson.
Yeah, so the Peruvian government did
Said
not
no.
let him close it down, which was probably a good decision. He ended up going anyways with tons of security and
Yeah.
policemen, etc.
Yeah, security guards, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we got back to Aguascalientes. We went and like had burgers and beer.
I had an alpaca burger, my first time eating alpaca. That was really good, actually.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just went back to the hotel, hung out until like 2:00, got our duffel bags, went to the train station, and then caught the train from Aguascalientes at 3:00 to what was that town called? Ollantaytambo.
Yeah.
To Ollantaytambo, and then right away, once we got off the train, there was a guy with our names. So we went to him, and then he had like a nice car, taxi service, and then he drove us from Ollantaytambo back to Cusco. But the traffic was so bad, so it took like 2 hours.
Yeah, but it was really nice being back in a car and out of vans and trains and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. So he then just dropped us off back at the Airbnb. He gave us plastic bags so that we could dump all our stuff in them, give the duffel bags back. And then, we were back.
We were so happy to be back.
We were happy to be back. 7 p.m. on Friday on the last day. So
yeah,
that was really nice. Okay. So we've alluded to this several times, and I think it's important to discuss this, even though maybe it's a little awkward. But our tour guide, we really did not vibe with for several reasons, which is why by the end we were just sick of him. We were so tired of him. Some of those reasons were like, okay, we both speak fluent English. I speak Spanish. He speaks Portuguese because he's Brazilian.
And Portuguese.
Yeah, and he understands Spanish and everything, but we just thought, you know what? We want an English-speaking guide. It's just going to be the easiest. We want to make sure we're getting all the information and everything. And our guide like really didn't speak English. Like he was like basic conversation.
He could relay his message sometimes. But other times you just really didn't know what he was talking about.
You really didn't know. And he
had a strange accent.
Like both of us have spent several years teaching English. So like criticizing someone's accent is really not what we would do normally. But in this case, it was so frustrating because it was a crazy accent and you really had we're paying, for an English speaking guide. And he would say like, let's go that white. And you're like, white? And then you realize he means way. Or like, look at the skate. And you're like, the skate what? Oh, sky.
Yeah.
Like he was adding T's to the ends of words with vowels and he was changing consonant sounds like, oh, I hope you like your visif to Peru. And you're like, visif? Oh, visit.
Or like drink out of a cuff.
Yeah.
And because we've spent so much time teaching English and we've traveled so much, we know how to speak to people that don't have perfect English. And it's perfectly okay to not have perfect English.
Yeah, of course.
But his was just very strange and we just couldn't get past it.
We couldn't get past it. And also because of all the other things that we will tell you, we just disliked him even more. And so that was just another thing to be like, ugh, just to be frustrated.
Yeah. So
the accent thing was really bad. It was really hard to get information about him or information out of him, like basic things. Like I would show him a map and be like, so where are we now? And he'd be like, yes. And then move their map around and be like, and here. But nothing was ever clear. We went away being like, we don't know what just happened.
Yeah, and a lot of times it just didn't feel genuine in the sense that we would ask him a lot of questions about his life, and he just didn't really seem that interested in us.
Yeah, he didn't ask us any questions, which is fine, but
at least pretend to.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like he really wanted to be around us. And what else was I gonna say?
Well, there's the main issue.
Well, the main issue, but I was gonna say something else. Oh, I can't think of it. Anyways, the main issue that like really got us so mad, we didn't really notice it much on the first day. On the first day, it was like he was giving me like a ton of attention, like, Nikki, do you know this? Nikki, do you have this? Nikki this, Nikki that. And he really like didn't pay any attention.
I'm here too.
Yeah, and like whenever he would talk, he would just be like, Nikki, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So that stood out, but like it wasn't that bad. Then the second day is like when things started getting really, really bad. And it started out like right away in the morning, because like day one, I was wearing like hiking pants. They're not flattering, they're just hiking pants. The second day, I was wearing yoga pants, which apparently he liked, because he was like, oh, Nikki, new pants today. Very, very sexy. Yeah. And I was like, oh, really?
And at that point, I was just more understanding of it, because I know how South American cultures are sometimes. And of course, he grew up in a tiny, tiny village, Quechua culture and whatnot. It is a little machista.
Like a lot of Latin cultures.
So in the beginning, you're trying to be a little accepting and understanding of it, but it just got worse and worse.
Right. So I like tried to blow it off and was like, oh, really? Okay, whatever. Like, I'm not going to say thank you. But then he just like kept touching me. Like he was always touching me, and he wanted to take a photo with me. And he like put his arm around my waist, like really intimately, like right here. And I was like, ugh, this feels bad. Oh, and another quick thing is he was always asking us to take photos. Like he was like interrupting our experience. Yeah. And asking us to take a photo of him.
Like he said he's been to Machu Picchu 600 times. Yeah. And he still needs people to take photos of him?
Yeah, he'd be like we would be filming something. He'd be like, wait, take my photo. Like, and we're like, with our camera or your camera? He's like, your camera, take a photo of me. So we have like 100 photos of our guide on our cameras. Okay, but anyways, back to the sexual harassment. So he was making comments about me, like, kind of a lot that morning, about how I was looking sexy and how these pants looked good on me, and it was very awkward. And then like when we crossed the pass on the second day, Art was feeling better, so he started walking really fast. And like at the time, Art didn't know like how uncomfortable I was feeling, and so Art was like walking very far ahead, and the guide was walking with me, and he kept being like, wait, stay back. And like whenever any like group or other people would come close, he'd be like, stop, Nikki, let them go ahead first. And like, I just felt like he was trying to create a distance between Art and I. And so that was already weird. And so he kept like getting close to me. And like this one guy walked past, and it looked like he wasn't dressed appropriately. And he was like, look how that guy's dressed. Look at the clothes he's wearing. And it was kind of like, okay, thank you. Like, get off of me.
And he was constantly asking about what relationship we had with each other, if we were friends, if we were more than friends.
Yeah, he was always like trying to figure it out. Yeah. And then like I was walking with my sticks, and he was getting so close that like at one point I tripped, and like my stick went over, and he like went to grab me, and he grabbed my waist and like put his stick, while he was doing that, he put his stick in front of me. So then I like tripped again over his stick, and he like kept trying to grab me to like save me, and was like, careful, baby, careful, babe, careful. And I was like, oh my God, don't call me babe. Don't touch me. Don't call me baby. Like, don't tell me I'm sexy. It was getting so uncomfortable. Yeah. So weird. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I think one of the weirdest parts was that he was just always giving Nikki a lot of attention. So I was like, oh, Nikki, you're drinking a drink.
Yeah.
Yes, I am drinking a drink. Oh, Nikki, you're going to the bathroom. Yes, I'm going to the bathroom. Oh, Nikki, you're going to shower. Yes, I'm going to shower.
Yeah, and like then, literally everything I did. I felt like I was being surveilled.
And that culminated in the worst moment, where it's like he was in his tent, we were in our tent, and then it's like, we thought he might be asleep already, and then she coughs, like, and you hear someone say, "Oh, Nikki, you cough,"
and I didn't even respond, because I was like, sorry, I was like, Yeah, I cough. Like, what of it? Like, coughing is like a regular human bodily function. Like, I don't need to explain myself. It doesn't mean I'm sick. Like, I
Basically,
just
we
coughed
don't need commentary on
on
everything.
literally everything I do.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, it was like I was eating an orange, and he was like, "Oh, Nikki, you eat oranges for breakfast." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm eating an orange." He's like, "Oh, good. You should eat oranges."
So that's when we kind of thought, like, we need to do something about this.
Well, okay, there's one more thing. That night, when we got to that second night sleeping, Art and I were like, "Oh, there's like a little shop, so we want to get a beer." And we're like, "Oh, we'll treat you to a beer. Do you want a beer?" And he was like, "No, I don't want to. I don't want a beer. I'll have a Gatorade instead because I'm still working and I want to be professional. So I don't want to drink on the job. I care about being professional." And so as we were sitting there on the balcony, him drinking his Gatorade, being professional, and us drinking beer, this big group of people walked by, like 8 people, mixed boys and like men and women. And Art and I were like, "Oh, I think I recognize them. We saw them like here and here and here." And the tour guide was like, "Oh, look at the women. Which one do you think is the sexiest? Let's see who is the sexiest." And I was like, "That's weird. Like you're already sexualizing me. Like, please stop sexualizing every woman on the trail. Like, we are sexualized in so many moments of our life. Like, let us just exist while we hike. Like, why do we have to be sexual objects while we hike?"
And it's important to note he's married with 4 children.
Yes, 3 of which are girls. 3 of his children are girls.
So eventually we had enough.
Yeah. Well, so that night, actually, I started getting so worked up about it. I was so mad. Like, I was just thinking of all the things. So I couldn't sleep. Like, I went to sleep and had nightmares about it. Then I woke up and was just like thinking of all the things I wanted to say to him, thinking like, just spinning, spinning, spinning. So the next day was super awkward.
Yeah. And so we had to take 30,000 steps.
In
pretty
almost
much
silence.
In silence. And something he would try to do a lot as well is try to get us to walk in front, probably so you could watch Nikki the whole time. So that whole day, it was just him trying to get us in front and us being like, "We're more comfortable with you in front." So then we walked that whole day with him, me behind him, and Nikki in the back.
Yeah, because I was like, "Art, like, stay in between us, like, stay close, don't go ahead. Like, I can't be near him." And so he could tell something was wrong, of course, because I was interacting with him and laughing like normal. And then whenever I would see him, like, I honestly couldn't even look at him. Like, I would arrive and just be like I physically couldn't look at him because he made me ill. And so when he was closer to Art, he'd be like, "Is Nikki okay? Is everything okay?"
And I was like, kinda.
Yeah. So like we were kind of at an impasse of what to do, because we were like, well, we could just like take a taxi and go straight to Aguas Calientes and just skip it and just like leave him behind. But then we were like, no, that fucking sucks. Like, this is our experience. We want to do the entire trek. That's why we're here. And it's not fair if our tour guide is ruining that experience for us, because like we're literally like basically paying him to harass me. So then I was like, okay, should we say anything? Should we not say anything? If we say something, when? So once we arrived at lunch, like we were talking about it in private, and I was just like, I have to just say something. So at that third day lunch, I was like, "Listen, like, I need to tell you something. I feel very uncomfortable around you." And I just kind of like laid it out, and I used like teacher voice, trying to make it as simple as possible, wanting him to understand. And I think he was really embarrassed.
He was definitely very embarrassed.
Yeah, he did apologize. I don't know that he totally got it, because he was like, "I'm just making a joke. Like, I'm just joking." And like, that's what misogynists say. They're like, I say terrible, horrible, like misogynistic things, but relax, I'm just joking. Meanwhile, women are like suffocating in jokes. So I was like, it's not your decision to decide what's a joke and what's harmful when you're the one causing harm. But ultimately, like, I think he like got it. And we also told him about the attention thing. Like, look, you don't give him any attention. You don't listen to what he says. You're like surveilling me all the time, making comments about every little single thing I do.
And that took a turn as well, because then he started
ignoring me.
ignoring Nikki and just giving me way too much attention, which I never asked for.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have
Like
a
all we
normal-
want is that it's equal, but
yeah.
So yeah, so
his attitude did change after that, which we
Yeah.
appreciated. So it
Yeah,
made things a
and-
little less awkward.
Yeah.
And we were able to continue the trek.
Yeah, and that's the main thing that's important to us, is like we wanted to finish. And he did apologize again when we arrived in Aguascalientes. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry about what happened. You know, I think you have a wrong impression about who I am. I'm a family man with children, and I don't want you to think that way." And I was just like, you know, like, I appreciate that, but also like, please, for the future, like, don't do that to women again. And, you know, he was like, well, it's just that women are weaker and men are stronger. So women need more attention on the hike, which is like already sexist, but like, okay. But also I'm like, he's been sick the entire time and struggling, and I've had literally no problems and like have a lot of experience hiking. Like, do you think I've needed more help?
And also, even though women sometimes might need more help on the hike, they don't need to be surveilled off the hike
right
the whole time.
Exactly. So anyways, that is the deal with our tour guide, and basically that explains why we just no longer wanted to spend time with him. And I'm sure he was feeling awkward with us as well, because he, you know, he kind of knew, but we were over him. So
yeah, it was unfortunate, and it's important to note that that's not why. I mean, that's why we're not going to be suggesting the travel agency that we used.
Yeah.
Because although the service was really great, otherwise the food was amazing, all the tents were ready to go. You know, transport with the bags and everything, it was really incredible.
Yeah.
We just can't suggest.
No, I wouldn't want any other person to be in the situation that I was in and to feel the way I felt and feel that uncomfortable, because, you know, this is like an experience of your lifetime. Like, you only take the Salkantay trek to Machu Picchu one time, and like now when I think of the trek, I'm gonna think about this.
And it was a really expensive trip, so
Yeah.
we wanted it to be as good as it could be, but ultimately it was what it was, and we got through it.
Yeah. So moving on, leaving our tour guide behind. Now we'll talk about like the extra money that we needed on the trip besides the cost of the trip and tipping.
Yeah, I think we expected to spend extra money.
Mhm.
We didn't really know how much.
Right.
They did give us a brochure kind of explaining how much we needed to tip the porters and the guides and things like that. But we still didn't know how much was really appropriate. We thought we'd kind of feel it out on the trip. So we took a few hundred soles just in case, to see how much we'd want to tip each person.
Yeah. And so the extra things that we spent money on, that very first morning breakfast, and then the very last day in Aguascalientes lunch, those meals were not included. So we needed money for that. You also need several coins, like several soles for bathrooms along the way.
Soles for bathrooms are essential.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you have a lot of coins.
Yeah. And then there's also like little shops along the way. So you can get Gatorade if you want. You can get bananas, you can get fruit, things like that. We paid 10 soles each for a hot shower on the second night. We paid 10 soles each for the thermal baths on the third night. And then like when we got beers were like between 12 or 15 soles.
Yeah, and the tipping ended up being about 250 soles that we paid. So we paid 50 for one of the porters, 100 for the cook, which did an amazing job.
Yeah, the cook was amazing.
And in the end, it was so awkward with our tour guide that we decided to also give him 100 soles.
Which he was really surprised about. He was like, really? You're giving me a tip?
Because after all, like, you know, we're able to give that much, and we know it also helps him a lot. So
even though like we didn't really like him, we still want him to like be successful in his life.
Yeah, exactly.
So we gave him a tip.
So basically it's just important to take a few hundred soles.
Yeah, I'd say a few hundred, and the smaller bills the better, because you'll often be paying small amounts. So it's harder to break 100 coins for sure.
Coins for bathrooms.
Yes. Okay. And so if we were to do it again, what would we change? Well, I think definitely like we had the impression that going with the tour group was required, and it absolutely absolutely is not.
And not just because we didn't like our tour guide, but even if it was the best tour guide in the world, we probably didn't need him because everyone's just kind of going the same way. It's kind of easy to know where to go. And sure, you
Yeah, the
might
path
get
is obvious.
kind of lost, but you can kind of ask people where to go. The path is fairly obvious.
Yeah.
And basically, we were arriving at all these campsites and just seeing all these people hanging out and having fun. And although we were having fun with each other, we kind of wanted to meet other people.
Yeah,
and
we wanted it to be a little bit more social.
a little bit more social. We thought that there would be more people in our travel group
Yeah.
when it was just us.
Yeah, because if you do it without a group, there's two ways. You can either like bring your own tent and your own sleeping bag and pots and pans and carry everything with you and just like go along in the campsites, or you can not carry like extra food and stuff. I guess you might still need a sleeping bag, but the campsites are pretty obvious. And at each campsite, they have these little A-frame, like wooden tent structure things. And I think they're like 20 soles each. So there's always a place to find to sleep.
And there's always a way to find things to eat as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I would want to do a hybrid of what we did and what we would have liked to do. So I don't want to be cooking my own things and carrying all my stuff.
Yeah.
But I do want to kind of have the independence of just going my own way and meeting whoever I want to meet and hanging out with whoever I want to hang out with, because ultimately we had to hang out with our tour guide for 5 days, and it's really hard hanging out with people that you didn't choose to hang out with.
Yeah, for 5 days.
Yeah.
Whereas like all the individual people that were doing it, we could see them like as the trip went on, just forming a bond and becoming friends and like had this little group and would walk together. And we were like, oh, it looks really fun.
We want that.
Yeah.
And then there were the people that just zipped through the trek because they were getting transported from campsite to campsite. And then whenever they arrived, they were just having like tons of beers.
Yeah,
and
there was definitely like a party group.
There was a party vibe, and they're waking up hungover and just kind of falling into the next van that takes you to the next campsite, which, you know, to each their own. I could see myself doing that at some point in my life in the past, maybe.
Yeah, but I think if you do it on your own, it would be probably like $200 to maybe $200 cheaper, just because, you know, we're paying for a guide and we're paying for the service. So it would definitely be much more affordable to do it on your own, and it's totally possible and really not that primitive. Like I wish that we knew in advance that doing it without a tour company was possible.
Yeah, but whatever you end up doing, just make sure you do all your research and you understand what it really is doing it, what it's like doing it by yourself, and make sure that's what you want. Yeah,
and if you contact tour companies, ask them if they have a sexual harassment policy for their workers, especially if you're a woman. You better plan ahead. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it, huh? That was our Salkantay trek experience. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this moment. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions about Salkantay, about Machu Picchu, or even anything about Peru, just let us know in the comments. And if you don't, thank you for being here for the last hour and 12 minutes. Yeah, and this was Nikki's first live stream, so congratulations on that. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it was my first live stream, so this what are you planning really to release next? So next, let's see. Well, we're gonna be releasing a lot of Machu Picchu videos. Yeah, so first I have another hiking video coming out that's around Cusco, and then I've got a food video in Cusco, and you'll also have a food video coming out soon. Yeah. And then after that, we're gonna just start releasing our Salkantay and Machu Picchu videos. So stick around for that. And you guys should go check out Gringo Nation as well. This is Art from Gringo Nation. He's from Brazil, but obviously speaks like an American because he spent 10 years of his childhood in Los Angeles. More food videos. All right, Rob, for you. Rob, we're going to get those food videos out. Yeah, we'll dedicate them all to you. And Calvin, thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. Yeah, Calvin, I really appreciate it. And hopefully, Calvin, you'll be in South America sometime soonish. Yeah. But yeah, so check out his videos. He is actually just starting a new adventure. He was in Sao Paulo in Brazil for the last couple months, came to Peru for a friend's wedding. And now from Peru, he's going to like over the next year, slowly make his way up through the rest of South America, through Central America, Mexico, up until Los Angeles.
Which on a very tight budget. Hopefully it won't be the case the whole way, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, and it'll be really cool because we are releasing the Machu Picchu videos on each other's channels. So my edits will be here on Nikki Post Travel Stuff, and her incredible edits, I'm very lucky, will be on Gringo Nation. So
yeah, we decided to do something like a little different because Machu Picchu videos are so saturated. Like there's a million of them. So we're like, let's try something new. Like I'm kind of hosting his videos and he's hosting mine.
And it'll be interesting for her audience to see what I do and for my audience to see what she does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Lana. Thank you, Chewakan. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Rob. And thank you if anyone else has been here but hasn't said anything. Thank you guys so much. Muchísimas gracias. Y bueno, nos vemos. We'll see you in the next videos. Bye.
Enjoy.
Awkward.